Hi everyone, it's Brittany. Welcome to another membership video. Today we are going to be talking about this idea of separation. So I really don't know how I'm going to structure this. So I'm just gonna talk and I'm gonna assume that it will all make sense by the end. So when we choose to have this human experience, the first thing that we are taught is separation. We are taught that we are an individual. We're taught that we live in a world, and we're taught that we have a name, and then we have a set of experiences that define who we are. Whether you're born into a wealthy family or you're born into a family that struggles with money, or you're born into a situation where, there's lots of yelling and arguing. Whatever it is, it's all a part of your experience. It's all happening to remind you in the end that this is not who you are. So really, we have this idea of separation right from the start of the human experience. And from there, we start to build on this separation. We start to add things that make us who we think we are, which then further and further emphasizes this idea of being a separate self. But the truth is, you are not this separate self. You are not this human. You are not this human with thoughts and feelings and a life that's going on outside of itself. That's the way that it appears, but that's not the way that it is. So, as Source, you manifested your first creation, which is the human character. And again, like I said, you add on all of these different ideas, these beliefs, these stories about this character that makes that character who he or she is. There's nothing wrong with any of this, but what I'm here to do is to remind you of who you really are and what's actually going on here. So when I speak of the fact that there is no separation, what that means is there's no separation between you as Source and anything in your experience. There's no separation between you and what you see in this supposed 3D. We're going to talk about that. There's no separation between you and what you desire. There's no separation between you and this character that you've chosen to animate. Now, yes, I have absolutely taught so many different things when it comes to analogies and different ways of looking at things to help you see that none of what is going on within this character has to be your truth. It doesn't. When you realize that you aren't that, it makes it a lot easier. But I don't want you to think that you have to ignore what's going on. I don't want you to think that you have to ignore the reflection that you see. But I want you to understand that it's not separate from you. So I know I've used this analogy before, but it's just really easy to use. And it should help you understand what I'm saying. So when you take clay, for example, we'll use clay in this situation as the source. So clay on its own, in its purest form, is just clay. And if you use that clay to create something, you are using as the source, yourself, clay, to create whatever it is that you create. So you can create pots, you can create bowls, plates, you can create sculptures, you can create mud masks, you can create whatever it is that you want to, but those creations can't exist without the source. They can't exist on their own in their own right without the source, clay. If you take away clay, those things, those different forms of clay, cease to exist. But clay on its own can exist in its truest form. So using this analogy, if you understand that no form that comes from clay can exist without its source, just like everything in your experience is just a form of source, a form of you, and it can't exist without you. It can't exist without you, but you can exist on your own as source. So, in this human experience, again, I've used lots of different analogies, and guys, all that is doing is just helping you look through a different perspective or a different point of view. Take whatever feels good for you and leave what doesn't. There is no need to use all of these different examples and try to make them work together. Some of them might contradict another. This is all just a different perspective or a different point of view. So again, choose what you prefer, choose what feels best for you. But the whole point here is that if you understand that the character is your creation, and the mind with its thoughts is your creation, the feelings that occur within the character, also your creation, and this supposed 3D, which is not a separate thing, is also your creation, you have to understand that those things, while are there, you're experiencing them, have no power over you unless you give it to them, unless you allow it to have power. So what does that mean? Well, that means if you are observing thoughts and you start to follow the thoughts and you start to forget who you are and you choose to buy in to these thoughts as if you are the character, it's okay. We all do it. But if that's how you are consistently living your day-to-day experience, you are not standing in your power. You are not recognizing that you are source. You're still seeing yourself as a separate individual. Therefore, have experiences of someone that sees themselves as a separate individual with no power, with no say, with no authority in their life, no control whatsoever. But that's not who you are. That's your creation. Now, the creation doesn't have access to understand where it's coming from. So I've used this analogy with you guys before, I'm sure of it. But when I talk about the video game analogy, when you go in as the one in charge, choosing to play this game, selecting the character that you choose, selecting their skills, their talents, their magic powers, whatever kind of game you're playing, and you get into the game and you start using the character and you start playing, the actual character in the game has no clue that it is anything other than what it has been programmed to see itself as. So it fully believes that it is this character living in this experience, and this is just what it is. That's what's going on with your human character. It doesn't understand how there could be no separation. It doesn't understand how there is no past when it has these memories and these feelings about that. But none of it is the truth. None of it is real because, again, you have orchestrated all of it. It's not real. The experiences, yes, they're real experiences. Yes, they are. But in truth, nothing is objectively happening outside of you. So a lot of people will ask me the question, How do I dissolve this separation? How do I stop experiencing a time delay? How do I stop experiencing this lag where it feels like I will claim that this is who I am and the 3D world doesn't show it to me? Well, first of all, you're already seeing it as separate if you're labeling it as the 3D world. And then you're saying, I'm doing this and the 3D world is doing this. How? The 3D doesn't exist. It's not an actual reality. It's a reflection where we use the 5 senses given to this character to have an experience, but there's no solidity there. It looks like it. I know. It feels like it. It seems like it, but there isn't. There isn't. And again, guys, you can ask me all day, how do I know this? I have many people asking me, how did I figure this out? You have to see it for yourself. My experience is going to have nothing to do with your experience. And again, I love sharing my experiences with you. And I intend to continue to do that just because I think it's helpful to hear other experiences. But the truth is, it's all about you and the way that you choose to look at something. So when someone asks me, is it enough for me to just enjoy it within? Is that enough? Will everything unfold if that's what I do? I mean, I don't know. You tell me. Is it? Is it enough? Is that enough for you? From the question, I can already see that you're still seeing yourself as separate. You're still seeing yourself as this person that needs to just get it right and needs to have the perfect thought and the perfect feeling to create this magical experience where you see it in your real world. But that is not what's going on. So that perception, that mindset of how you're looking at it is going to feel very difficult, and you're going to feel like you're just chasing your tail in circles. And I know because I've done it. So again, that's why I'm happy to share my experiences. But my point here is, when you ask those questions, really, you're not recognizing that you're the source of everything. So who do you go to? You go to the source. Where else could you possibly go? There's only you. So for me, I had recognized that there was no separation and there's no time. Time isn't real. It's irrelevant. There's no past. There's only now. I completely understood all of that from my mind, from a logical place, if you can call it logical. But still, I wasn't really experiencing that. And in fact, I started to notice that it almost seemed like nothing was changing. While I was digging my feet into the sand on this stance that no, time isn't real, time doesn't exist. Yet for my character, she's being approached with time every which way. She has a clock. She wakes up to an alarm every morning that says the time. She has a calendar that she has to look at. She has a schedule that she follows. So for her, it's going to feel very uncomfortable to accept that this is the truth. But a few things. Number one, your character really isn't going to accept anything as true until they're experiencing it. You know, the character has to see it first and then acknowledge that it's there. And that's fine, because we don't need to convince the character of anything. We just need to stop buying into this idea that we are the character. So drop this idea that these thoughts are yours. Drop the idea that you're feeling anxious or you're feeling fear. You're not. You are 100% certain of who you are. You know that you don't need anything because you are all things. But your character struggles with that. And that's okay. That's totally okay. Just stop putting your sense of self into a very unstable character, with unstable thoughts and feelings and experiences. Things that change cannot be relied on because they're not real. They're not reality. Again, I'm not saying that you aren't having these experiences. You are, but they aren't the truth. They aren't reality itself. You are. So again, like I said, I was struggling with trying to convince my character that time wasn't real and you just had to let time be irrelevant. That honestly just caused me more resistance and more suffering. And it really wasn't until I started to lean into time, recognizing that I chose this concept of time. I chose as source an experience of time for my character. And it must be for a good thing. It must be for a reason. It's not here to torture your character. Why would you do that? No, that's not what's going on. So I sat and I thought about it and I realized, well, if time weren't a thing, if I weren't experiencing this concept of time, although not real, it's a concept and an experience, how would I enjoy all of these things that I so desperately want to experience in this reflection? I want to be able to savor and fully immerse myself in experiences. And if I feel like time doesn't exist and everything is just speeding by because there is no time and I can't sit here and slow down and appreciate something, then it's not going to be enjoyable. So I completely shifted the way that I looked at time, and I completely shifted the way that I was looking at this idea of separation. And I started leaning into it, appreciating it, enjoying it for what experiences it gave to this character. And the more that I appreciated it, the less that I pushed against it, the less that I resisted it, and I just welcomed it. Guess what? That dissolved this apparent time delay, that dissolved this apparent separation between me, myself, and what I claim to be true, and this reflection that we see as outside of us. But remember, the character, the 3D reflection, the thoughts, the feelings, the worries, the fears, they all exist within awareness, within source. And those thoughts and feelings, again, have no effect on anything unless you give them your power, unless you choose to use what you are seeing in your reflection to define you in any way. Now, it's not about ignoring your reflection. It's not about ignoring it. It's about seeing it for what it is. A moment where you were aware of whatever it is that's appearing, regardless of what it is. Not questioning it, not trying to figure out how you did that, where it came from, when could you have possibly done this. Just accept it. Accept that as the source, everything happens through you. You don't need to have full understanding of when or how you became aware of something like this and it's now being experienced in the 3D world. It doesn't matter. The more you do that, the more you are forgetting what matters, that you are the source of everything. So really, in order to dissolve this separation, it'll take two things. Number one, by acknowledging everything that we're talking about here today. Number two, maybe I'll do a number three. Number two, really starting to enjoy this character's perception of limitation, of struggle, of suffering, of lack, of separation. Why? Why do I want you to appreciate it? Well, without those things, without these experiences of separation or suffering or lack or struggle or whatever it is, without those things, you couldn't really know what it was like to be one, to be fully whole and complete right now, to be perfect and abundant and healthy and pure positive love. You couldn't know these things without first experiencing the opposite of it. So simply, we choose to give our character experiences of lack so that we know what it feels like to be whole, to be fulfilled, to be complete. It's all for our benefit, okay? And the third thing is choosing to bring your awareness to this throughout every single day. It's not a requirement that you must do this, but you have habitually insisted over and over and over again that you are not who you want to be, that you don't have the things that you want. It's so easy. We just slip right back into that character. So I'm asking you to create a new habit for your character. Create a new habit so that you start to recognize, and the character will, at the very least, stop fighting you at every single turn. It's not going to stop completely. Let's be real. I still have unfavorable thoughts or thoughts that imply separation. It's just what it is, but I don't allow those things to mean anything to me. I don't give power to those thoughts. I don't shame myself for having those kinds of thoughts because they're not mine. They come from a creation that I built. And just as easily as I have assigned this role to her, I can assign a different role to her. And she has to automatically take on that new role. So again, recognizing the fact that there is no separation. You're not separate from anything. Everything is you. How could anything be separate from you? Because you're the source of all of it. And then, like I said, coming up with some sort of daily practice for yourself where you just bring your awareness to this truth, not trying to focus on your preferred reality, not trying to focus on whatever it is that you want to manifest, but simply just recognizing, noticing, being awake, being aware, consciously aware, because you're always aware, but choosing to notice what's going on, choosing to notice what kind of thoughts your character has, choosing to notice the way that the character feels about certain things, and not trying to fix any of it, just noticing. And then choosing to remind yourself that you are the source of everything. Everything is you. Everything comes from you. Nothing can exist without you. And if you continue to look to the 3D for some sort of change, you're not understanding that change doesn't happen outside of you. It doesn't happen there. Change happens from within. As the source, you recognize who you are, and you stand in that, and you consistently choose to return to that, regardless of how the character feels, regardless of what thoughts are occurring within the character, regardless of what the reflection might appear to look like in this temporary experience. This is really about letting things just be and choosing to stand in who you really are, your truth. There's nothing wrong with giving yourself experiences of enjoying your incredible wealth, of enjoying that gorgeous relationship that you have. But do it from the understanding of who you really are. Do it from realizing that you're the source of absolutely everything. So this is why it's possible for you to experience whatever it is that you choose. Now we're just shifting from believing that we are this character that we have manifested and recognizing that we are the source of this character. So whatever takes place within that character has no effect on what you get to experience, has no effect on what the character gets to experience. So really just practicing being aware, sitting, noticing, recognizing what's going on, and then returning home, returning back to your truth, yourself. That's really it, guys. I don't want to continue to talk in circles. I want to make it as clear as I possibly can. And continuing to talk and talk and talk might just cloud my message. So I'm going to leave it here. Of course, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. But don't be surprised if you ask me a question and I come back with another question, because I want you guys to start relying on your own guidance. After all, I'm just a reflection of you. And you've given me this power of, oh, well, she knows what she's talking about. I'm not there yet. No. We are one. So a part of yourself knows exactly what it is that I'm saying and allowed you to have this experience. So again, just to wrap things up, you are reality. You are absolutely it. There's nothing else but you in your experience. Yes, there are billions and billions of other points of views, of other points of consciousness, but they all come from the one, the source, which is you, who you are. And the way that you choose to define yourself, the way that you choose to look at your life, remembering that there is no separation between what you say and what you choose and what you allow yourself to experience within, and this apparent reflection. So please stop separating them. Please stop saying, I have it within, but I don't have it here. All that means is you don't know what's going on. You're seeing this as one thing, and this is a separate thing. And your reflection can only reflect. It can't do anything but that. So you can't trick your reflection into showing you something that you aren't first aware of being. Okay, guys, thank you so much for being here with me today. I love you guys so much. I am going to be taking more questions for the next Q&A. Still unsure if it's going to be live or not. I think because I really do want to get it out sooner than later, it's probably not going to be live. But for the third one, I am going to definitely do a live event. So I'll keep you updated with all of that, but most likely this will be recorded as well. So go ahead and leave your questions, of course, in the comments, or you can send me an email if that's easier for you. All of that information on how to contact me should be in the description box. But yes, guys, thank you so much for being here with me today. I have decided that this video will clear up things for many of you, and I'm excited to hear what you thought about it. So have an amazing rest of your week. I love you all so much, and I will see you soon.